and gentlemen, the opening of the summit is about to begin. Would you please take your seats and kindly switch your mobile phones to silent mode. While the summit will be conducted primarily in English, some speakers will also be speaking in Putonghua and French. You may use the simultaneous interpretation device already placed on the right-hand side of the seat to select your preferred language. So Channel 1 is Cantonese, Channel 2 is Mandarin, Putonghua, Channel 3 is English, or Channel 4 is for French. Ladies and gentlemen, now would you please join me in welcoming Chief Executive of the Hong Kong Special Administrative Region, Mr. John K.C. Lee. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, a very good morning to you all. Welcome to the Hong Kong International Cultural Summit 2024. I'm Calvin Lau. It's my pleasure hosting for you today. 尊敬的各位来宾、女士们、先生们，欢迎大家莅临香港国际文化高峰论坛2024。我是主持刘卓文。论坛将会主要以英语进行，也会有普通话和法语的演讲。欢迎各位观众使用已經放置在您座位上右方的計時傳譯設備。歡迎咁多位現場嘅觀眾咧，使用已經放置喺你哋座位上右。
We welcome to use the simultaneous interpretation facilities on the right-hand side. Please channel 1 for Cantonese.
頻道3是英語，頻道4是法語。While the summit will be conducted primarily in English, some speakers will also be speaking in Putonghua and French. You may use the simultaneous interpretation device already placed on the right-hand side of your seat to select your preferred language. So Channel 1 is Cantonese, Channel 2 is Putonghua, Channel 3 is English, and Channel 4 is for French. And for those of you who are joining us online today, you may switch between the original language and English on the event website. The West Kowloon Cultural District Authority organizes the first ever Hong Kong International Cultural Summit 2024 to bring together global leaders of arts and cultural institutions to promote international cultural exchange and cultivate long-term partnerships. Over 20 eminent speakers from 12 countries and regions, including the heads of some of the world's most important cultural districts and most esteemed international arts and cultural institutions, will address the summit and exchange views on topical issues related to the future development of cultural districts and museums. Hong Kong has always been an international city where East meets West, with the theme Connecting Cultures, Bridging Times. The summit is set to be an extraordinary confluence of global cultural intellect and vision. Now, it is with great honor that I introduce and invite the following guest of honor to come on stage for a group photo to commemorate the opening of the Hong Kong International Cultural Summit 2024. First up, may we invite the Honorable John K.C. Lee, Chief Executive of the Hong Kong Special Administrative Region.
Mr. Wang Xudong, Director of the Palace Museum.
Mr. Henry Tang, Chairman of the Board of the West Kowloon Cultural District Authority. The Honorable Andrew Leung Kwan Yun, President, Legislative Council of the Hong Kong Special Administrative Region.
Ms. Lu Xingning, Deputy Director of the Liaison Office of the Central People's Government in the Hong Kong SAR. 香港特别行政区文化体育及旅游局局长杨润雄先生。
香港特别行政区特派员
Mr. Pan Yundong, Deputy Commissioner of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the People's Republic of China in the Hong Kong SAR.
Our official photographer is ready to capture this incredible, meaningful moment. 看看我们前方大会摄影师的镜头，先来一张合影，纪念这个非常重要的时刻。All right, some more photos to go. Bear with us. Thank you very much. Now, with Mr. Tang, please remain on stage, and the following guests, would you please return to your seats and enjoy the rest of the program? Thank you very much. Before we move on to the next session, we will be taking a brief moment to adjust the stage for our upcoming speakers. We appreciate your patience. Ladies and gentlemen, to kickstart the summit today, may I now invite our host, Mr. Henry Tang, Chairman of the Board of the West Kowloon Cultural District Authority, to give his welcoming remarks. Mr. Tang, please.
Chief Executive of the Hong Kong SAR Government, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. It is indeed my pleasure to welcome all of you to the first Hong Kong International Cultural Summit 2024, organized by the West Kowloon Cultural District Authority. In particular, I'd like to thank our Chief Executive, Mr. John Lee, for your honored presence at this occasion and for addressing this summit. The summit is convened at a time when the role of arts and culture in fostering international dialogue and exchange has never been more vital. We are themed Connecting Cultures, Bridging Times. The summit provides a valuable and timely platform for all to share the insights, establish partnerships, contribute to the sustainable development of arts and culture on a global scale. This summit marks not only an important milestone for the West Kowloon Cultural District to showcase its strength to the world, but also the commencement of the collaborative endeavors that promise to reverberate across the cultural realms at the global level. Yesterday, 21 leading cultural institutions from around the world signed memoranda of understanding with M+, Hong Kong Palace Museum, and the Performing Arts of West K. Today and tomorrow, 24 eminent speakers and moderators who head the top museums and cultural institutions in the world take part in 5 engaging panel discussions, including the plenary session to be held later this morning, to explore cultural districts' contributions to the social and economic transformation of cities. I would like to express my heartfelt gratitude to the nearly 40 speakers and MOU partners for coming all the way to Hong Kong to share your invaluable insights with us and/or to establish collaborative partnerships with our artistic units. Your cooperation and your collaborations, we will share with you our vision and your vision for the future of art and cultural collaboration between us. Your participation also underscores this summit's contribution to advancing international cultural cooperation and reinforce our shared commitment to cultural vitality, diversity, and inclusivity. The fact that so many august cultural institutions signed MOU with us is a solid vote of confidence in the quality of our work and the professionalism of our team. With its unique cultural and historical background that embraces both Eastern and Western cultures, Hong Kong will continue to expand our international networks under the one country, two system concept and establish ourselves as the East meets West Center for international cultural exchange. Indeed, we have grounds to claim that because we have the very strong support of the Central People's Government under the National 14th Five-Year Plan. As the cultural hub of Hong Kong, West K plays a pivotal role in achieving this mission together with the Hong Kong government, in which case we are part of you and you are part of us, which in turn will define our city's artistic journey and leave an indelible mark on the world's cultural map. Since the reopening of Hong Kong after the pandemic in early 2023, West K has provided a brilliant showcase of Hong Kong's soft power to the world, impressing many with our world-class cultural infrastructure, highly acclaimed programs, and not to mention our art park and very diverse recreational grounds. A total of 5.6 million visitors and 2.2 million visitors have visited M+ and the Hong Kong Palace Museum since their opening in November 2021 and July 2022, respectively. In 2022, around 2 million visited M+, making it the second most visited art museum in Asia and placing it in the 18th rank in the world. The museum's popularity continued to surge, with close to 2.8 million visiting in 2023. Our museums are embraced not only by our local citizens, but also attract a lot of visitors from both the mainland and overseas. The proportion of tourists increased from less than 5% of total visitations in early 2023 before our opening to between 65 to 70% in February of this year. We were one of the most popular visiting spots during the Lunar New Year, where everyone has to come here, look for themselves, and bring home a picture. West K has become one of the most popular cultural landmarks in Asia and the 6th most visited destination in Hong Kong in 2023. We are greatly honored to have the Minister of Culture and Tourism, Shen Li, sending us a congratulatory message to be presented by Dr. Wang Xuedong, Director of Palace Museum, just in a moment. Minister Sun's support is an important validation of West K's work in fostering East meets West international cultural exchange and telling a good story of China. 2024 marks a very important milestone year for France and China. It is the 60th anniversary of the establishment of diplomatic relations between China and France. France has long been Hong Kong's valuable partner in promoting international cultural exchange and art appreciation. It is our honor to have Mr. Bertrand Lothary, Ambassador of France to China, to deliver a congratulatory message on this occasion. Thank you, Ambassador Lothary. To further the cultural cooperation between West K and France, M+ and Palace Museum will present a total of 4 special exhibitions in 2024. 3 of them are co-organized with leading French cultural institutions, and 1 bears strong connections with France. These include the newly opened Noir et Blanc, a story of photography, exhibited, co-presented by M+ and the French May Arts Festival, in collaboration with the Bibliothèque Nationale de France and IMPay Life is Architecture exhibition, the first major retrospective of the seminal Chinese-American architect, designer of modernization of the Grand Louvre in Paris and the Bank of China Tower in Hong Kong, among others, which will open in June this year. The Palace Museum will organize two major special exhibitions with French institutions in June and December of this year. They include a special exhibition co-organized with the National Museum of the Palaces of Versailles and Trianon to examine the splendid cultural art and artistic exchanges between China and France in the 18th century, revealing the French court's love for Chinese culture and the mutual trust and admiration between the two states. This exhibition will display spectacular portraits, scientific instruments, porcelains, and many, many more. Another very special occasion to open in June introduces the evolution of French fashion and art over a century with the aim of exploring the cultural exchanges between palaces in China and in France in the 17th to 18th centuries. But today, I'm honored to announce two more exciting collaboration projects between M+ and France. First, M+ will co-organize with Musée National Picasso Paris, the Picasso for Asia, a conversation special exhibition in March of 2025. This is the first ever exhibition co-organized and co-curated by Musée National Picasso Paris and the Museum in Asia. And we are thrilled that M+ is that museum. It has been 12 years since the last time Musée National Picasso Paris presented an exhibition in Hong Kong. And Picasso is a very well-known French artist, and I'm sure we will all be asking when can we start to buy tickets. Another exciting announcement is the donation of more than 220 independent prints and over 2 dozens of books, illustrated books and folios of Chinese French master Zhao Wuqi to M+, presented by Zhao's wife, Madame Françoise Marquette Zhao. This important donation sets to enrich our existing collection of Zhao's work, making M+ the museum outside of France that has the most comprehensive catalog of prints and illustrated books by this master. We are immensely grateful to Madame Zhao for your generous donation, and to Mr. Dominique de Villepin, former Prime Minister of France, for facilitating the gift to M+. So thank you, Madame Zhao, and thank you, Dominique. The Hong Kong International Cultural Summit is the first international event to kick off the bustling Hong Kong Art Week 2024, a time when the city plays host to numerous visual arts events such as Art Basel Hong Kong and Art Central, as well as arts festivals such as Hong Kong Arts Festival and our West K Fun Fest. We would not be able to organize such large-scale cultural summits without the staunch support of our partners and supporting organizations. In this regard, I would like to express our heartfelt thanks to the Cultural, Sports and Tourism Bureau of the Hong Kong SAR government, the summit's major sponsor, Cathay, WKCDA's travel partner, the Peninsula Hong Kong, the summit's Hong Kong partner, hotel partner, and HKT, the summit's technology partner. Their generous support is instrumental to bringing the summit to fruition. Last but definitely not least, I'd like to thank all our guests and participants, not only for those attending in person, but also for those who are watching these proceedings online. I'd like to thank you for your interest in this summit. And I hope you will gain lots of insight from our distinguished guest speakers sharing their insights. So let's embark on a transformative journey that will have lasting impact on the cultural landscape worldwide. I wish you all a very memorable stay in Hong Kong, and please spend money. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Tang. Please be seated. So much to look forward to here at the Hong Kong International Cultural Summit, as well as the West Kowloon Cultural District. Now, it is my great pleasure to introduce Chief Executive of the Hong Kong Special Administrative Region, the Honourable John K.C. Lee, who has the vision and aspiration to develop Hong Kong as the East meets West Centre for international cultural exchange. Please join me in a round of applause as we invite Mr. Lee on stage for his opening remarks.
Dr. Wang Xudong, Director of Palace Museum, Your Excellency Ambassador Bertrand Lothoreri, Deputy Director Lu Xingning, Deputy Commissioner Pang Yundong, Mr. Henry Tang, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. It gives me great pleasure to join you today for the opening of the Hong Kong International Cultural Summit. More than 700 of you are here for this inaugural International Cultural Summit. And international it certainly is, with high-profile attendees from the Asia-Pacific, the Middle East, Europe, and the Americas and beyond, and prominent speakers from at least a dozen countries and regions. The result is one of the largest international cultural gatherings ever staged in Hong Kong. This event and your welcome presence here reflects Hong Kong's long-standing role as the multicultural bridge between East and West. That reality is rooted in our Chinese culture, in concert with our open, inclusive, and international community and economy. All that is premised under the auspices of the unique one country, two systems principle. Hong Kong is the only city in the world that enjoys both the China advantage and the global advantage. That is why we are committed to capitalize on our unparalleled advantages and develop Hong Kong into an East meets West Center for international cultural exchange. A commitment that enjoys the full support of our country under the National 14th Five-Year Plan. The Hong Kong SAR government attaches great importance to propel Hong Kong's rise as a cultural hub, and we are serious about this. This financial year, we will inject $180 million into our Film Development Fund and $370 million into our Create Smart initiative, supporting projects in film, arts, design, and other cultural initiatives. We will introduce a signature performing arts program scheme to encourage world-class performing arts productions and international cultural brands to be staged as long-running shows in Hong Kong. We've boosted our cultural exchange provision as well. We are determined to support more local arts groups and artists in performing outside Hong Kong. The West Kowloon Cultural District, the vast piece of harborside land we are now standing on, is essential to realizing Hong Kong as an East meets West Center for international cultural exchange, to our rise as an arts and cultural hub connecting the world. And I'm delighted that the West Kowloon Cultural District Authority has brought you here for this global cultural gathering. I'm heartened to learn that more than 20 MOUs and cultural cooperation agreements have been signed during the summit, and with many of the world's most renowned arts and cultural institutions. I'm confident that these and other collaborations will enrich Hong Kong's cultural landscape, and they will create invaluable opportunities for our performing arts groups, artists, and young people to broaden their creative horizons. I welcome your arts and cultural groups and artists to perform in Hong Kong, and in doing so, to experience all that Hong Kong has to offer. In the meantime, I know you will enjoy every moment of your stay here. After all, this is Hong Kong's Arts March, a whole month dedicated fully to mega arts and culture events and happenings all over this world city, all over Hong Kong. Art Harbour has just opened, put together by the government in collaboration with Team Lab and other partners. This innovative fusing of art, science, and technology will light up both sides of our storied Victoria Harbour, day and night. Art Basel Hong Kong and Art Central open this Thursday. This year's Art Basel, with its East meets West convergence, counts more than 240 art galleries from all over the world. That's up 37% over last year, almost 40%. It speaks resoundingly of Hong Kong's return to business and the brilliant business of art. For the film lovers among you, the 48th Hong Kong International Film Festival starts screening this Thursday as well. The second edition of our Pop Culture Festival returns next month. And in June, the inaugural Chinese Culture Festival debuts. The Hong Kong Performing Arts Expo is another first. It takes place here in October, as does the fourth edition of the Guangdong Hong Kong Macau Greater Bay Area Culture and Arts Festival. The Greater Bay Area is a cluster city development that brings together Hong Kong, Macau, and 9 cities in southern China. Collectively, the area boasts a population of 86 million and is an economic powerhouse equivalent to the world's 10th largest economy. More importantly, we share similar heritage roots, but also celebrate widely diverse lifestyles and customs. It is certainly a cultural extravaganza worth looking forward to. This year, too, we will launch the first Hong Kong Fashion Design Week. It will bring together a wide variety of designed events into one flagship initiative for Hong Kong's cultural, creative, and tourism industries. And we are just getting going. Ladies and gentlemen, Hong Kong is on its way to becoming the arts, culture, and events capital of Asia. We are already among the largest art trading centers in the world. In the first quarter of 2023, Hong Kong realized a cheering almost 60% year-on-year growth reportedly in artwork and antiquities exports. That's thanks in part to Hong Kong's unique advantage as a free economy with a low and simple tax regime and a seamless logistics network. Speaking of seamless logistics and a great deal more, my thanks to the West Kowloon Cultural District Authority for organizing this remarkable international gathering. Ladies and gentlemen, I know you will enjoy your stay with us in Hong Kong, and I look forward to continuing the goodwill and the creative collaborations this summit has set in motion. I wish you all the best of art, culture, and business in the year to come. And as Henry said, spend more in Hong Kong. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Lee, for marking this special occasion with us. Now, let's give another round of applause for our Chief Executive as he needs to depart from the summit for other official duties. We're immensely grateful for your time he has taken from his busy schedule to join us today. Next up, we're delighted to have Dr. Wang Xudong Director of the Palace Museum, to deliver a congratulatory message on behalf of the Minister of Culture and Tourism of the People's Republic of China. 接下来掌声有请故宫。
Let's welcome Dr. Wang Xudong, Director of the Palace Museum, to the stage to deliver a congratulatory message on behalf of the Minister of Culture and Tourism of the People's Republic of China. Respected Chief Executive John Lee, Chairman Henry Tang, ladies and gentlemen, dear friends, good morning. I'm very delighted to gather here with you here in Hong Kong to participate in the Hong Kong International Cultural Summit. First of all, entrusted by Mr. Sun Yeli of the Ministry of Culture and Tourism, on behalf of the Ministry, I would like to extend my congratulations to the opening of the summit and greetings to the guests from home and abroad. Hong Kong, with its diverse cultural tapestry, has long been an important link for cultural exchanges between China and the West. In recent years, the Hong Kong SAR government has vigorously promoted the development of cultural facilities, building on the unique creative atmosphere brought by the diverse cultures in the city to promote a better cultural ecosystem. The West Kowloon Cultural District has become a portraiture for Hong Kong's cultural characteristics. The Xiqu Centre, M+ Museum, and Hong Kong Palace Museum have been put into use, effectively supporting and enhancing Hong Kong's cultural and artistic image. At the same time, Hong Kong's role in foreign cultural exchanges has been continuously elevated. Art Basel and the Hong Kong Pop Culture Festival have attracted many domestic and foreign visitors, further highlighting Hong Kong's cultural charm. The Hong Kong International Culture Summit, hosted by the West Kowloon Cultural District Authority, brings together cultural leaders and experts from all over the world. We will jointly explore the latest trends and experiences in cultural development and build together an important platform for cultural exchanges and promotion and understanding between China and other countries. We will shape tourism through culture and highlight culture through tourism. I believe the summit will not only inject new impetus into the development of Hong Kong's cultural industry, but also promote the integrated development of Hong Kong's culture and tourism in a wider scope at a deeper and higher level. Supporting Hong Kong's development into a center for cultural and artistic exchanges between China and foreign countries is a clear objective put forward in the outline of the country's 14th five-year plan. In recent years, the Ministry of Culture and Tourism has actively implemented the central government's policy benefiting Hong Kong, fully supported Hong Kong's integration into the overall development of the country, strengthened cooperation in major culture and tourism activities, and worked together to promote the excellent traditional Chinese culture to the world. In June 2017, President Xi Jinping witnessed the signing of the collaborative agreement on the development of Hong Kong Palace Museum between West Kowloon Cultural District Authority and the Palace Museum. He has high hopes for the role of Hong Kong in promoting Chinese culture, being a platform for cultural exchanges between the East and the West. And the blueprint today has now been turned into the beautiful reality. In the future, the ministry, as always, will fully support Hong Kong to leverage its strengths, further showcase the achievements of China's cultural construction, and deeply participate in exchanges and mutual learning from other world civilizations. We look forward to Hong Kong in terms of seizing the opportunity of the national development and gain momentum in collaboration in exchanges and enhancing its international culture influence. In closing, I would like to wish the summit a complete success.
60th anniversary of diplomatic relations between China and France. Hong Kong, being a global hub for arts and culture, plays a key role in fostering people-to-people connectivity. This explains exactly why we have the honor to have Mr. Congratulatory, Ambassador of France to China, to deliver a speech at today's summit in Hong Kong. Please join me in welcoming him on stage.
Monsieur le
President Henry Tang, Mr. Director of Palace Museum, Director Wang Xudong, ladies and gentlemen, I would like first to thank warmly Henry Tang for his words that he addressed to our country, France, in this year, which is very particular for France and China's relations. And this is the time that we chose, this year, 2004, the Franco-Chinese Cultural Tourism Year, on top of celebrating 60 years of diplomatic relations. I would like as well to thank him very warmly for this invitation addressed to our country to participate to the first International Cultural Summit organized by the West Kowloon Cultural District of Hong Kong. And of course, I am very happy and honored to represent France during this event, which illustrates, as the new Art Basel edition, which opens tomorrow, this special place, Hong Kong, where East meets West. Those cultural exchanges between France and Hong Kong, you have reminded us, Mr. Henry Tang, are very dense, and we wish profoundly continue to reinforce these relationships, and the West Kowloon Cultural District is, for our country, a major partner. The importance of the French delegation, high-level delegation participating to this summit, is a proof of it. The president of the Guillemet Museum, Madame Cécile Debré, President of Picasso Museum, Director of Versailles Palace, Mr. Laurent Salomé, the Head Curator of the Centre Pompidou, Mrs. Marcela Lissa, and I salute her, and as well the presence among us of former Prime Minister Dominique de Villepin and Madame Françoise Marquezan. Ladies and gentlemen, the reinforcing of our cultural exchange inscribes, as I said, within the frame of the friendship between France and China, that is linked and renewed 60 years ago. This celebration of this anniversary, as we said a little while ago, was placed under the sign of culture, human exchanges, and tourism. Because indeed, beyond our institutional and political ties, 60 years, human exchanges during those 60 years have contributed to build this powerful link between our countries. Our artists, our researchers, our writers, our entrepreneurs, our students, French, Chinese, and Hong Kong students as well, incarnates and bring this relationship alive. This year is marked in China as in France by an exceptional cultural programs, and Hong Kong is has a great place. Of course, French culture is open to the world, and that means permanent exchanges with dynamic cities as Hong Kong. All along 2024, West Kowloon District is going to welcome a very rich French programs. Now you can see in the Amplius Museum the exceptional exhibition Noir and Blanc, History of Photography, fruit of a partnership between M+, the Bibliothèque Nationale de France, and the French May Art Festival. For 100 years of photography, we can see at the M+, this exhibition is a model of what can and what should be cultural cooperation between our two countries. This cooperation will go on, and we continue with this an exhibition of decorative art at the Hong Kong Palace Museum, presenting the treasures of the fashion of the last 300 years. And at the end of 2024, the Versailles Palace will have the honor with an exhibition at the Hong Kong Palace Museum dedicated to the link between Chinese imperial court and court of Versailles. Those agreements signed yesterday with the Centre Pompidou and the Musée Picasso will allow further major projects in the years to come. Ladies and gentlemen, France is happy and proud to participate to the richness of Hong Kong cultural life and to contribute to its development as international cultural capital of Asia. We are happy to attract in Hong Kong numerous visitors who are in love with French cultures and of those cross-influences between East and West, whether during those events such as French May or during those multiple events, musicians, dancers, performing arts, visits of movie stars during the French Film Festival, writers during the Francophonie Festival, or exhibitions of French galleries. Participation of France as an honored country during the next Design Hong Kong Week will allow to develop exchanges in the area of design, these multifaceted exchanges. Again, I would like to warmly thank organizers of this cultural summit for their invitation and their commitment in favor of the promotion of culture and art, and in particular with France. I am convinced that these next few days will be rich, stimulating, and fruitful discussions allow the emergence of new ideas, new cooperation, new projects for the years to come. I thank you very much.
International cultural exchange and long-term partnerships, a signing ceremony was held last night where over 20 leading arts and cultural institutions signed memorandum of understanding with the West Kowloon Cultural District Authority. So the 22 MOU signatories represent the world's top museums, conservation and art research institutes, art centers, film archives, theaters and theater associations from 11 countries. The MOUs cover diverse areas of cooperation, spanning co-production and touring of exhibitions, collection sharing, partnerships on conservation, digitalization, and scientific research, as well as educational and exchange programs for art administrators and artists across Hong Kong Palace Museum, M+, and the Performing Arts Division of WKCDA. We've actually prepared a short video to share with you the memorable moments of the MOU signing ceremony.
This is a journey for collaboration to promote global cultural connectivity.
From partnerships on exhibition planning and curation, to conservation, scientific research, and educational projects.
Staging amazing exhibitions curated by M+ Abroad and bringing some of the best artistic practices to Hong Kong through international partnerships.
Presenting on our world-class stages, the best performances by artists from around the world. And through our cultural exchange strategy, letting West K homegrown productions shine in the global arena.
establishing long-term partnerships with other cultural institutions, we are realizing one of our important strategies for international cultural exchange, that is, bringing in and going global.
Preceded by the MOU signing ceremony and the welcome dinner yesterday, the summit is now featuring the opening plenary session at the Xiqu Centre right here. It will then be followed by 4 theme panels to be held at M+ this afternoon and at the Hong Kong Palace Museum tomorrow morning. A total of 20 eminent speakers from 12 countries and regions will address the summit and exchange views on topical issues related to the future development of cultural districts and museums. It is our great pleasure to have the honor of the presence of all these distinguished guests and MOU signatories here today. Now, I'd like to invite all of you to come on stage for group photo. First up, may we invite Karen Chan, Executive Director, Asian Film Archive, Singapore. Paul Tam, Executive Director, Performing Arts, West Kowloon Cultural District Authority. Chalita Umbalangji, Director, Film Archive, Public Organization, Thailand. Gu Haohao, Shanghai 戏剧家协会
Ms. Gu Haohao, Vice Chairman of Shanghai Theatre Association.
Dr. Maria Mo, Museum Director, Hong Kong Museum of Art, Hong Kong SAR. Shen Tian,
Ms. Shen Tianmei, Director of Chongqing Sichuan Opera Theatre.
Ma Yan Song, Architect, Founder of Mad Architects, China. Wu Heli,
Wu Heli, Secretary of Shijiazhuang Art Research Institute.
Moon Kun Liu, Executive Vice President and CEO, Lian Museum of Art, Samsung Foundation of Culture, Korea. Chen Yongquan,
Chen Yongquan, Secretary of the Party Group of China Theatre Association.
Malia Willis Londonio, Independent Curator and former Director, Banco de la Lepoliga Museums, Bogota, Cambodia. Dr. Andres Santo, Refik Anadol, Media Artist, Director, Refik Anadol Studio, US and Turkey. Next up, we also have Dr. Andres Santo, New York-based Cultural Strategy Consultant and Author, United States. Professor Michael John Gorman, Director Designate, MIT Museum, United States and Founding Director, Biotopia Nadengun Museum, Bayern, Germany. Maholo Uchida, Project Head, Center for Cultural Innovations at Takanawa Gateway City, East Japan Railway Foundation for Cultural Innovations, Japan. Suhana Rafael, Museum Director, M+, Hong Kong SAR. Dr. Louis Ng, Museum Director, Hong Kong Palace Museum, Hong Kong SAR. Dr. Michele Lister, Head Curator, New Media and Asia Pacific, Saint-Pompidou, France. Akiko Miki, International Artistic Director, Benesse Art Site, Naoshima, Japan. Dr. Thomas J.S. Lerner, Head of Science, Getty Conservation Institute, United States. Katrina Sedgwick, Director and CEO, Melbourne Arts Precinct Corporation, Australia. Dr. Chase F. Robinson, Director, Smithsonian's National Museum of Asian Art, United States. Tim Reeve, Chair of East Mang Board, Deputy Director and Chief Operation Officer of Victoria and Albert Museum, London, United Kingdom. Makoto Fujiwara, Executive Director, Tokyo National Museum, Japan. Sheikha Al-Nasser, Director, Museum of Islamic Art, Doha, Qatar. Sheikha Nawar Al-Qasimi, Vice President, Sharjah Art Foundation, United Arab Emirates. Betty Fong, CEO, West Kowloon Cultural District Authority, Hong Kong, SAR. La Hong Salomé, Director, National Museum of the Palaces of Versailles and Trianon, France. Dr. Miguel Falomil, Director, Museo Nacional de Palau, Spain. Maria Balshaw, Director, Tate, United Kingdom. Dr. Thomas P. Campbell, Director and CEO, Fine Arts Museums of San Francisco, United States. Dr. Yannick Linzer, President, Gourmet National Museum of Asian Art, France. Cécile Dupré, President, Musée National Picasso, Paris, France. Wang Xudong 博士，故
Dr. Wang Xudong, Director of the Palace Museum, China. Dr. Wang Chunhua, Director of the National Museum of China.
Bertrand Lotouleté, Ambassador of France to China. And Henry Tang, last but not least, Chairman, West Kowloon Cultural District Authority Board, HKSAR. Unfortunately, one of the MOU signatories, Mr. Chu Xiaobo, Director of the Shanghai Museum, and the other speaker, Mr. Yatsu, cannot be here with us today. All right, ladies and gentlemen, would you please stand a little bit closer to the center of the stage and look towards the front. Our photographers are ready to capture this incredible moment. Once again, thank you very much for joining us today on this meaningful occasion. Bear with us while we adjust the positions and make sure it's a phenomenal photo. All right, looking good. Eyes to the front, cameras are ready. Once again, a round of applause for all our guests on stage, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for joining us today. Would you please take your seats and enjoy the rest of the program?
M+ is an open platform to connect people from around the world to contemporary visual culture with an interdisciplinary collection rooted in Asia. With our exhibitions and programs, we promote community well-being. That's what we bring, Museum Plus.
我们善用独特的策展角度和国际视野，透过具特色的展览，推广中国文化艺术的传承及中西文化交流对话，呈现多元化创新的教育活动。
好開心有呢個機會參與建立呢個西九舞台，可以同香港同埋世界各地嘅表演者、觀眾分享我哋嘅 passion、理念同創作，感受香港中西文化薈萃嘅魅力。
Now it's time for the plenary session, ladies and gentlemen. CEO of the West Kowloon Cultural District Authority, Mrs. Betty Fong, will be moderating the session. Mrs. Fong was appointed as CEO of the West Kowloon Cultural District Authority in October 2021. After a career in the government. So before joining the authority, she had played a pivotal role for about 10 years as the Director of Leisure and Cultural Services and later the Permanent Secretary for Home Affairs in formulating policies and overseeing projects to promote the development of Hong Kong's art and culture. Now, please join me in welcoming Mrs. Betty Fong on stage.
Thank you, Kevin, for the kind introduction. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome you all to the plenary session of the Hong Kong International Cultural Summit 2024. Today, we have over 1,000 participants here in the Grand Theatre and also at our satellite site at Seminar Hall of the Xiqu Centre. In addition, we also have many mainland and overseas participants watching our proceedings through our live streaming right now. So on behalf of the West Kowloon Cultural District Authority, I would like to welcome you all, both on-site and off-site, to join this very important and our first ever International Cultural Summit. Our distinguished guests this morning have already highlighted the important role the West Kowloon Cultural District is playing in developing Hong Kong into an international cultural hub and also fostering East-West international cultural exchange. Indeed, similar endeavors are being undertaken in different parts of the world. This is because arts and culture is a very powerful catalyst of driving social and economic transformation of cities or even countries. By clustering arts and cultural facilities in a geographical location, cultural districts can actually become a driver of economic development and also unleash synergy among various stakeholders, from museums, performing arts centers, arts galleries, arts-themed retail dining, entertainment, and also educational institutions, offering a wide variety of cultural and tourism offerings to our visitors. On the economic side, cultural districts stimulate innovation and investment and encourage collaboration between public and private sectors and attract visitors from around the world with the holistic experience they offer. As a social infrastructure, cultural districts serve as gathering places for people of different backgrounds and cultures to exchange ideas and to learn from each other. The vibrant ambience, the iconic architecture, and the very diversified programs Cultural District can offer together creates a lively environment and that enhances people's quality of life and transforms the city landscape. This is what we are doing here in the West Kowloon Cultural District, situated on the 40-hectare site at the Victoria Harbour front. The West Kowloon Cultural District is one of the most ambitious and largest cultural district projects in the world. The design of the district is guided by a development blueprint based on the city park concept. That's why you see we have a lot of green public open space in West Kowloon. And this was selected through a 3-stage public engagement exercise from 2009 to 2011. As of today, we have completed 5 major facilities, namely Xiqu Centre, where you are, and the free space and also the art park in 2019, Amplus in 2021, and Hong Kong Palace Museum in 2022. And we are on the way to complete the largest performing arts center in the district, the Lyric Theatre Complex, which comprises a 1,450-seat Lyric Theatre, a 600-seat medium theatre, and a studio theatre, as well as our first ever resident company center in the district. Despite our short history, the West Kowloon Cultural District has been changing Hong Kong's cultural landscape through its excellent infrastructure and programming, fulfilling our mission and vision and mission of promoting arts and culture, not only to Hong Kong people, but also to people from around the world. The hosting of this Hong Kong International Cultural Summit is a testament of our commitment to these mission and visions. However, as we all know, arts and cultural facilities are expensive to run. So making it sustainable financially, environmentally, is a tall order. Running a large-scale cultural district like the West Kowloon Cultural District is even a bigger challenge. That's why it is important for us to learn from others' experience and strategies. Today, we are honored to have 4 eminent speakers representing 4 cultural districts in Europe, Australia, Middle East, and East Asia, who will share with us the vision and mission of the projects, the challenges they face, and the strategies to overcome them. They are Tim Reeve of East Bank, London, Katrina Cedric of Melbourne Arts Precinct, Shaika El Nasser of Kata Museums, and Akiko Miki of Banners Art Site, Naoshima, Japan. Notwithstanding the differences in objectives or funding models of these cultural districts, we all aspire to transform the social fabric and outlook, economic outlook of the cities or countries through arts and culture, with a view to improving people's livelihood and rebranding the city. I'm sure we will have a lot to learn from each other's experiences through the ensuing presentations and discussion. Well, let me introduce to you our first speaker, Mr. Tim Reeve. Tim has been the Deputy Director and Chief Operating Officer of the world-renowned Victoria and Albert Museum since 2013. He also leads the creation of the V&A East in East London and oversaw the opening of the V&A Gallery at Design Society in Shenzhen in 2017. Tim is also the chair of the East Bank Board. East Bank is a unique cultural destination in Stratford, comprising cultural institutions including V&A East, BBC Music Studios, Satterswell East, as well as the new campuses of the University College London and University of Arts London. The Mayor of London's £1.1 billion funding for the East Bank project represents the most significant single investment in London's culture since the legacy of the 1851 Great Exhibition. Today, Tim will share with us the history and development of the East Bank project, as well as its contributions and challenges. May I now invite Tim to come to the stage and give his presentation. Thank you.
Morning, everybody. Firstly, thank you so much to the West Kowloon Cultural District Authority, Betty Fung, Henry Tang for inviting me to the Hong Kong International Cultural Summit and to take part in such an interesting and important panel this morning with such illustrious and inspiring colleagues from around the world. Thank you also for such wonderful hospitality for the MOU signing ceremony and dinner at the Palace Museum last night, and especially the sunset and an incredibly memorable fireside chat with Uli Sig. I'm going to briefly talk about the transformation of the Queen Elizabeth Olympic Park in East London, home to the 2012 Summer Olympics and Paralympic Games, and to share something of our story over the last 10 years in creating an Olympic legacy based around culture, education, and creative opportunity, East Bank, as it is now known, and the lasting impacts and opportunities we hope to realise, as well as some of the challenges we will need to meet in the years ahead. Slight technical hitch. Okay, this one works, thanks. As you might expect from someone representing not only East Bank, but the Victoria and Albert Museum, part of the original cultural district on Exhibition Road, I have to start with a short piece of East London history. This is the site on the left of the 2012 Olympics before the Games were secured, looking towards central London, a somewhat derelict post-industrial landscape. And I must say, Henry Tang's description of West Kowloon 15 years ago being, quote, nothing but a flat piece of land, really resonated with me. But this is also an area with a rich, creative and entrepreneurial story, I think beautifully captured by this 1944 image on the right of the Carpenter's Road, from which the East Bank waterfront buildings are now rising, towards the end of a period of 100 years or more as a place of light industry and making. At about the time that the Exhibition Road neighbourhood was beginning to emerge in the mid-1850s, this site was being purchased by the Worshipful Company of Carpenters and developed as a place for small-scale manufacturing and making in textiles, distilling, chemicals, and matchmaking, with a new residential neighbourhood, including the Carpenters' estate, where new communities would emerge. But at the time the UK's bid for the Olympic Games was submitted, this hugely important part of London had not found, or rather rediscovered, that social and economic purpose. So in some of the most deprived boroughs, not just in London but the UK as a whole, securing the Games enabled the vast urban regeneration project needed to create a new part for the Olympic Games and at the same time offering a catalytic opportunity to chart a new course, with the Olympic Games simply marking the end of the beginning of a new chapter for East London. As soon as the Games were concluded, Boris Johnson, then Mayor of London, created the London Legacy Development Corporation out of the Olympics Delivery Authority to build out and develop the park for the long term as a new place for East Londoners to live, work, and prosper. This timeline shows the key points in the evolution of a legacy vision originally based on athletics to one still based on sport, yes, with the repurposing of the sports venues, but more towards culture, education, and creativity. By 2014, the broadcast and press centres for the Olympics had already been converted into a new tech and innovation campus called Here East, and University College London and the V&A had been confirmed as the founding partners for a new culture and education district, what Boris Johnson named Olympicopolis, a new Albertopolis for the digital age. Every major urban regeneration project has its moments of existential crisis or re-evaluation, and for East Bank, that moment came after the initial designs for the London College of Fashion, the V&A, and Sadler's Wells had been released, and when a new mayor, Sadiq Khan, asked for the master plan to be redrawn more in line with the available funding. As so often with a fast-paced creative process, the real innovation and radical ideas emerged from moments of crisis. And this pause allowed us at the V&A to create a new concept, V&A East Museum and Storehouse, two interconnected new sites on each side of the park, a new type of museum experience, bringing to life the full magic of 21st century museological practice. And here we are now in 2024, with London College of Fashion and UCL open, and with the V&A and Sadler's Wells openings fast approaching. So here is the final lineup of East Bank partners, with the BBC Symphony Orchestra and BBC Singers joining the V&A, the University of the Arts, London College of Fashion, consolidated from 5 sites into one, UCL East's new campus focused on ecology, robotics, urbanism, culture, disability, heritage and making, and Sadler's Wells' new performance venue, choreography studios and hip-hop academy. And this short film will frame that partnership more clearly than I can with words. So East Bank as a new district and the Olympic Park as a still relatively new civic space are and will continue to be defined more by those who call it and its environs home than by those who visit, important though tourism will be to the future sustainability of the project. Before the Olympics, the population of London was already steadily moving east, with more living east of Tower Bridge than west. And the population of the 4 Olympic boroughs of Newham, Hackney, Tower Hamlets, and Waltham Forest are growing rapidly. These boroughs also represent some of the youngest, most diverse, and deprived communities in the UK, underinvested in terms of national culture, cultural and educational infrastructure for many decades. The 2021 census data shows a majority are under 40. 45% were not born in the UK. The majority would describe themselves as non-white, and a significant proportion representing some of the poorest socio-economic groups. But this blend of cultures, traditions, languages, and aspirations in a part of London that has been historically both creative and international in makeup and outlook offers the East Bank Partnership a once-in-a-generation chance to connect with entirely new audiences and to offer them a platform for creative expression and genuine career opportunity in the creative industries. And so our objectives as a partnership are to establish Stratford as a new destination and economic engine for London, raising local aspirations, increasing access to sporting, cultural and civic opportunities for local people, helping to enhance levels of education and skills attainment, and in so doing ensure that sustainable jobs are created for those people to realise their creative potential and play their full part to ensure that the UK creative industries continue to be a growth area into the future. Governance, one of my favourite subjects. Herding the cats, preventing silos from emerging, keeping everyone to their commitments. Ensuring that East Bank, like any cultural partnership in any cultural district, continues to A, serve its audiences, looking outwards rather than inwards, and B, is always aiming for an impact greater born out of a partnership greater than just the sum of the individual parts. And this is a part of the East Bank story that is still evolving as we come towards the end of a major construction project and pivot towards programming, benefits realisation, a kind of business as usual, in a period of testing and learning and iterating to arrive at the right model for the long term. And of course, learning from our friends working in similar developments across the world, not least here in West Kowloon. To finish, Betty has invited us all to share the challenges that we have experienced or are experiencing in creating and then sustaining vibrant new cultural districts. And this list will, I guess, not contain anything different from the challenges experienced here in West Kowloon, on the South Bank in London, or at the original cultural district in South Kensington. And I don't see these so much as problems that have to be solved and removed, but as constant reminders of the challenges that we set ourselves as a new district in a new place for a new audience. But if I were to choose 3 of particular focus at this moment for East Bank, they would be sustainable creative collaboration, because this is why we chose to come here together, establishing the Olympic Park as a world-class destination, because that is what will sustain us financially over the long term, and transitioning in terms of expertise as we bring in the relevant talent and skills for the next part of our journey. But challenges aside, as the construction of East Bank comes to an end over the next year, and with the new UCL East and London College of Fashion campuses teeming with students from the 4 boroughs and around the world, my East Bank colleagues and I look forward to the future with huge optimism, in all humility and without any room for complacency, because the idea behind East Bank, its philosophy of collaboration, innovation, and creative opportunity, is taking root in the hearts and minds of the East London audiences who we have committed to serve. Because as London's Deputy Mayor for Culture and the Creative Industries, Justine Simons, often says, creativity is our superpower. And that flat piece of land, as Henry described it, is where creativity in East London is being reborn. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim, for a very interesting introduction of the project. We'll come back to ask you questions later on. So now we are moving from Europe to the Asia-Pacific region. Our second speaker, Katrina Cedric, is the inaugural director and CEO of the Melbourne Arts Precinct Corporation, which is responsible for delivering Australia's largest ever cultural infrastructure project, the Melbourne Arts Precinct, MAP. Prior to heading MAP Co., Katrina was director and CEO of the National Museum of Screen Culture, ACMI, Heads of Arts for ABC TV, and founding director and CEO of the Adelaide Film Festival. The Victorian government is investing 1.7 billion Australian dollars to transform the MAP into one of the greatest creative and cultural destinations in the world. The MAP project comprises the Fox NGV Contemporary, upgrading of the Heritage Theatres of Arts Centre Melbourne, and an 18,000 square metre urban garden. Katrina will share with us the evolution and transformation of the MAP and the revitalization of the Federation Square. May I now invite Katrina to come to the stage and give the presentation.
Thank you very much, Betty, and I'm absolutely delighted to be here, and I just want to echo Tim's thanks. I'm absolutely honoured to be invited to this inaugural summit, and huge thanks to the West Kowloon Cultural Precinct. So, Melbourne, in the state of Victoria, in southeastern Australia, is the nation's fastest growing capital city. It's known as the cultural capital already. It's a place that revels in art and design, in music and literature. It's no accident that Melbourne is home to the most visited gallery and museum and library in the nation. And culture is a key driver to its growing visitor economy. In fact, just recently, research by Visit Victoria identified arts, culture and events as absolutely one of the key visitor propositions for Melbourne. We've got a rich ecology of artists and companies across our art forms, a vibrant year-round festival and events calendar, and a series of visionary creative industry policies which have supported the government's strategic investment in built cultural infrastructure for many, many years. What we now call the Arts Precinct sits on either side of the banks of the Birrarung, which is the Yarra River, which is on the traditional lands of the Wurundjeri Woiwurrung people of the East Kulin Nation. In Australia, we acknowledge this ownership as we build on this land and respect and illuminate their heritage, past, present and future, with traditional custodians and with all First Nations people in Australia who've continuously practiced their culture in our nation for over 60,000 years. The Melbourne Arts Precinct corridor has one of the highest concentrations of arts, cultural and creative organisations in the world, spanning learning, making, researching, collecting and preserving, and hosting around 3,000 performances, events and exhibitions each year. It's grown organically over the past 70 years, but it's been driven by 3 visionary Victorian government interventions. Firstly, by acquiring a parcel of land. We're all about parcels of land in precincts. Acquiring a key parcel of land in the 1950s to the south of the river to build the National Gallery of Victoria and Arts Centre Melbourne. And then 50 years later, on the opposite side of the river, it commissioned Federation Square. And then 20 years on, it's invested again in the Melbourne Arts Precinct transformation, a $1.7 billion Australian dollar capital project that's the largest arts infrastructure project in our nation's history. It's situated to the south of Melbourne's central business district. It begins at Federation Square. It connects across the river at South Bank, embracing Arts Centre Melbourne, the National Gallery of Victoria, the University of Melbourne's South Bank campus, including the Melbourne Conservatorium of Music and the Victorian College of Arts. It includes the Royal Botanical Gardens and the War Memorial, both of which have rich cultural programs, the Melbourne Theatre Company and the Melbourne Recital Centre, the Australian Broadcasting Commission, the Australian Ballet, the Australian Centre for Contemporary Arts, Malthouse Theatre, and much, much more. South Bank, where much of this is situated, is also Melbourne's fastest growing suburb, with a young and diverse population that's doubled in the past decade. 2/3 of its residents don't speak English as its first language at home. Nearly half of the South Bank residents walk to work, so it's a perambulatory place where people move between buildings, but it has to be said at street level, it's yet to blossom. There's a lot of tall buildings there and not a huge amount of street activation as yet. The immediate suburb, therefore, is ripe for animation and activation through connection and through cultural exchange, because in any precinct, any cultural precinct, the spaces between the buildings are as important as the buildings themselves. So, the Melbourne Arts Precinct was envisaged in the 1950s and then commissioned in the 1960s. It's one of a generation of cultural precincts that popped up in many post-industrial cities in the mid-20th century following World War II. The South Bank Centre in London is an early example of this. They're often ambitious, brutalist visions of a modern, future-facing city, providing fit-for-purpose venues for the various art forms, music, theatre and visual arts, with capacity to accommodate new modes of practice and presentation and different audience sizes, a kind of one-stop shop for the arts. So in Melbourne, it was architect Roy Grounds who was given this challenge, and his wonderful master plan for the new precinct featured a trio of geometric forms. This master plan was approved in December 1960 and work began immediately on the rectangular National Gallery of Victoria building, which was completed in 1968 and immediately embraced by the people of Melbourne with its Great Hall and magnificent arched water wall entrance, a kind of early interactive installation, so inviting you can go up and touch the water, and now so Instagrammable. The building was heritage listed only 14 years later. Then construction began on Arts Centre Melbourne. Its concert hall, round in 1973, circular. It opened in 1982 with an auditorium for 2,000 people. And then the oval-shaped theatres building opened in 1984 with its iconic spire. And again, these wonderful buildings and their interiors were quickly heritage listed. And they were all, from the outset again, widely used by the people of Victoria and their visitors to our state. If we look at this map here, you can see in the middle on the right-hand side the 3 original grounds buildings from above that really shows their beautiful geometry. Immediately to the left is what has become the South Bank campus of the University of Melbourne. The Victorian College of Arts moved in there in 1973 in order that their students had close proximity to the National Gallery. And this was the first major move in the development of a more holistic arts precinct ecology, bringing tertiary and then secondary arts education alongside the major cultural institutions, with the Victorian College of the Arts Secondary School opening in 1978, and then the Australian Ballet Centre opening in 1988 with its renowned Australian Ballet School. Then in 1990, the Malthouse Theatre arrived. They cleverly repurposed an old brick brewing building, and then they were joined in 2002 by the Australian Centre for Contemporary Art and Chunky Move Contemporary Dance Company with stunning new studios and galleries. Then the Melbourne Recital Centre and the Melbourne Theatre Company opened their stunning purpose-built buildings in 2009. The ABC, our national broadcaster, built their Melbourne headquarters in 2012. And throughout all of this, the university continued to repurpose buildings in the precinct, expanding into warehouses and the old police hospital in 2015, and building the Melbourne Conservatorium of Music in 2019, which included, importantly, a series of laneways that cut through the university. So that's sort of enabling more kind of interaction and activation for pedestrians. Then, crucially, the next major Victorian intervention occurred because all of this activity was happening on the south of the river. In Melbourne, it is the north of the river where the CBD is. So Federation Square came along, the next major Victorian intervention. It commemorated Australia's 100-year anniversary of Federation. It was designed by Lab and Bates Smart's architects, and it was the culmination of many years of planning to create a town square and a gateway to the city that reflected Melbourne's forward-looking culture of creativity, innovation, and cultural diversity. Its civic and cultural charter was crucial. It was developed during the competition phase as a guide to its development and its operations, and its anchor cultural tenants were the National Museum of Screen Culture, ACME, and the Ian Potter Centre, NGV Australia, which houses NGV's unmatched collection of First Nations and Australian art. And then in 2015, it was joined by the Koori Heritage Trust, the arts and cultural organisation for the First Nations people of Victoria. And I should just say, when we're talking about models, Fed Square is a really interesting precinct in that it gets no funding from government to maintain its operations. So it relies on rental income from its tenancies and from its commercial and event partnerships across that precinct. So opening in 2002, Fed Square is also heritage listed, and it's hosted thousands of events, including here you can see the enactment of Tanderum, which brings together the 5 language groups of the East Kulin Nations. It hosts concerts, community festivals, film screenings, New Year's Eve celebrations, even World Cup soccer screenings, and this is when the Matildas did very well in the Women's World Cup recently. Over 110 million visitors have come through Fed Square since it opened, and now it's become officially the gateway to the Melbourne Arts Precinct. So a huge amount of activity and creative activity going on both sides of the river, but how do we glue it all together? And this is what the Melbourne Arts Precinct transformation is about. This transformation, known as MAPT, is an opportunity to leverage, connect, and glue together our beloved precinct, and to welcome a dazzling new institution into the neighbourhood, the Fox NGV Contemporary. MAPT is truly a city-changing project. It's a $1.7 billion capital project that had its genesis nearly a decade ago through visions each initially developed by NGV and Arts Centre Melbourne, and then with the government through Creative Victoria, and together they brought these visions together to create a larger whole. And I think that's going to be a theme we're going to be talking about a lot this morning, the sum of the parts. So MAPT is going to encompass 3 major packages with environmental sustainability woven through the project with an aim for zero ethos. For the Arts Centre Melbourne, after nearly 40 years of hard work, this Arts Centre is getting a major renovation. Designed by NH Architects and Snowhetta, it includes critical upgrades to bring this wonderful theatre and building into the 21st century, with a particular focus on the 2,000-seat State Theatre. This venue is Melbourne's purpose-built home for the Australian Ballet and Opera Australia and many other visiting and local companies. And these works will make it more accessible and efficient, upgrading its auditorium, expanding its backstage area and building new restaurants that spill outwards into the public realm. Construction work has already begun and is on track for completion in 2027. The new Fox NGV Contemporary is dedicated to 21st century art and design. The images you see here are from schematic design by the competition winners Angelo Candelapis and Associates. They're now well into detailed design and we're about to go out to tender for the main construction package. The Fox builds on the extraordinary success of NGV over the past decade, now amongst the top 20 most visited art museums in the world. The Fox is going to be a stunning new landmark which celebrates the central role of art and design in contemporary life. Complementing Roy Ground's NGV International Building, the design draws visitors in through its dramatic arched entries and into a wondrous and uplifting building featuring a more than 40-metre high spherical central hall and over 13,000 square metres of dedicated exhibition space. And it has an expansive rooftop terrace and sculpture garden that will give visitors incredible views across the precinct and the city. I should mention too that we're currently deconstructing the existing building on that site. And I say deconstructing rather than demolishing because we are aiming for 95% of those original building materials to be recycled and reused. And that's part of that really strong sustainability ethos that we have throughout the project. And then, built on top of the new elevated deck that covers the loading docks and the shared services for the precinct, we're creating a stunning 18,000 square metre urban garden for people, art and performance that will be a must-see destination. It's exquisitely designed by Hassel and So Ill architects with horticulturalists Nigel Dunnett and James Hitchmo. The public garden is going to be an artwork in and of itself. It's going to showcase what we're calling a new, bold Australian naturalism. Taking advantage of our relatively mild winters, this garden will flourish year-round, constantly changing with the seasons and always full of variety, wonder and beauty. It will be unique in the world in its planting density and scale, resilient to climate change and fostering biodiversity. The garden will wrap around the Arts Centre and NGV buildings and create a new pedestrian pathway that not only invites and gives access to people into these wonderful institutions, but provides a seamless and safe connection from the city and Princes Bridge right through to South Bank. And reflecting the institutions around it, it'll be activated by live performance and contemporary sculpture from the NGV's superb collection, along with commissions by First Nation artists. With cafes and restaurants spilling out from Arts Centre and NGV, this is going to be an unmissable destination day and night. This team is coming to the end of detailed design and construction, and it's anticipated, construction is anticipated to begin in late 2026. This really is a crucial intervention into the urban fabric of our city and will be a driver to transform this suburb for visitors, restaurants and businesses alongside the arts organisation. So MAPCO, which I run, has been set up as an organisation to help foster all of this development holistically, along with managing the mapped construction project. We manage Federation Square and ultimately we'll be running the urban realm. But we're also crucially, and I think this goes to Tim's point before, charged with ensuring that this incredible investment continues to be leveraged. So we're fostering partnership and collaboration across the many, many stakeholders across this organisation. Our job really is to glue this precinct together and weave it into the fabric of the city, to harness the opportunities now with the many decades of investment that have come before. Collaboration is at the core of our work. This multidimensional project has so many partners and so many opportunities if we harness them cleverly through strategic thinking, advocacy, new ways of working together. We can support innovation and experimentation, leverage investment, affect policy, enable partnership and deliver operational efficiency and more sustainable outcomes. Crucially, we're taking a user experience design approach to consider the visitor journey right across the precinct and through this lens to explore physical and digital holistic wayfinding, lighting, collaborative programming and activation, marketing and communications, ticketing. We're looking at public transport, we're identifying food and beverage opportunities, and much more. I can see the laneways throughout the precinct being alive with people from right across our community. Visitors to our city moving between exhibitions and shows and restaurants and bars, discovering new ideas, being inspired and immersed, sharing experiences together in a safe, inclusive creative hub that reflects the very best of Melbourne and our multicultural city. Thank you.
Thank you, Katrina. Very exciting, and I think we have to learn from you not just about how to run arts and culture. I also want to learn from you how to build a beautiful park, right, with lots of plantation. I think the weather of Hong Kong and Melbourne will be quite similar, so we can learn from you too. So I think all of us are very interested in knowing what's happening in Middle East, right? Middle East countries are investing a lot in arts and culture. And among the Middle East countries which place a lot of emphasis on arts and culture and making substantial investment, I think Qatar is no doubt a pioneer. Our third speaker, Xiqu Nasser, is the director of the Museum of Islamic Art in Doha, Qatar. Xiqu has held several positions at the MIA, including Deputy Director of Curatorial Affairs, where she was tasked to oversee MIA's relaunch in 2022. Before this role, she has been head of exhibitions of MIA since 2007. Xiqu will be introducing to us the vision of the Qatar Museums and the Qatar Museum Cultural District. Founded in 2005, Qatar Museum, or QM in short, is the country's preeminent institution for arts and culture with the goal of developing Qatar into a vibrant center for arts, culture, and education in the Middle East and beyond. QM oversees a large number of museums and galleries, including MIA, the Museum of Qatar, the Arab Museum of Modern Art, QM Gallery Qatar, and many other upcoming museum projects. May I now invite Xiqu to come to the stage and share with us her presentation.
Thank you, Betty, for your kind introduction and inviting me to participate at the Cultural Summit. Good morning, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. It's a pleasure to be with you here today to talk about Qatar's cultural districts and their contribution to creative economy and engaging communities. I'm delighted that I'll be able to contribute to this topic, as Qatar and Doha in particular offer an excellent examples of how cultural districts can be created, guided by both national strategy and in collaboration with the local communities. I'll start by giving a brief overview of the 3 representative cultural districts in Doha, and then explain their rise based on the cultural strategy of Qatar and the role that major national and public institutions played in the development of each of the cultural districts: Qatar Cultural Village, Msharab Downtown Doha, Qatar Museum Cultural District. 2 of these districts has already been established, and the 3rd one is currently under development. Qatar Cultural Village Qatar Cultural Village is an area filled with cultural venues, including galleries, museums, work of public arts, shops, and restaurants, which was opened in 2010. After its opening, it has become one of the most visited areas in the city. This is where families come to enjoy a performance, take a stroll along the coast, enjoy a cup of coffee or karak, and the visitors are mainly locals but also tourists. Qatar is a cultural organization that aims to preserve, promote, and celebrate Qatari heritage and culture, as well as cultures from around the world. The village hosts various events, exhibitions, festivals, and performances that showcase arts, music, theater, literature, and much more. It provides a platform for cultural exchange and dialogue, fostering understanding and appreciation among different cultures. The recent emergence of Msharab downtown Doha has not only matched but surpassed the popularity and the vibrancy of Qatar. Situated in the heart of Old Doha and drawing inspiration from its rich heritage, Msharab is eminently walkable, modern, and dynamic cultural district that feels like a city within a city. Since its inauguration in 2021, Msharab downtown Doha has attracted diverse array of visitors and over 4 million World Cup fans. Notably, all its buildings boast gold and platinum LEED certificates, reflecting a conspicuous approach to environment and sustainability. Rooted in the city's 19th century downtown area, Msharab embraces traditional Qatari planning principles while adapting them to modern era. The district's architecture strikes a balance between modern innovation and local heritage, featuring a cluster of museums housed in an elegant heritage houses along residential and commercial buildings. M7, a creative startup for fashion, design, and technology, at Msharab's innovative spirit, it provides a space for young designers, exhibitions, and education. Recently, it was a home for the inaugural edition of Doha Design Biennale, which showcased the overworks of more than 100 designers from the MENA region, marking a milestone in Arab design excellence. The Design Doha attracted visitors from across the region and beyond, future solidifying Msharab's status as a global design hub. Qatar and Msharab are two of the cultural districts that has become the most visited areas in the city, all seeking leisure, learning, and cultural activities. The third cultural district, Qatar Museum Cultural District and Park, which is currently under development. It promises to be a major cultural district, akin to Berlin Museum inside Museum Island. Insofar, it will provide a space of variety of activities, mixed use, while connecting 3 major museums and a gallery. It aims to transform a formal industrial port into an iconic, international, and innovative cultural district. It forms a link together with the 3 museums on the waterfront, the Museum of Islamic Art, the National Museum, and the future museum, the Flower Mill. The project, shaped as a large-scale dune, the project provides a safe and easy-to-navigate pedestrian-friendly crossing over the port roadways, including several walkways that provide a strong pedestrian link from the park and the National Museum to the top dune at the Art Mill Museum. This new area is an expression of connected effort to create cultural districts around the city and thus revitalize its culture and artistic life. The museum and the future shared space are also part of Qatar Museum's general cultural strategy, which is the 3 prolonged and rests on the following 3 principles: preserving and celebrating national history and heritage, nurturing and supporting social development, and reinforcing cross-cultural collaboration and understanding. Qatar Museums, established in 2005, its national prominent institution for culture, providing authentic and inspiring cultural experiences. through a growing network of museums, heritage sites, festivals, public art installations, and programs. It's led by the chairperson, Her Excellency Sheikh Al-Mayasa bint Hamad Al Thani. Qatar Museums aims to create a comprehensive cultural ecosystem, fostering a human and social, economic, and political development. It's crucial to recognize that these investments form a part of a meticulously planned 25 years national strategy. The initial phase, inspired by His Highness the Father Amir Sheikh Hamad Al Thani's vision, concentrated on heritage and identity. Within this stage, accomplishments include the establishment of the Museum of Islamic Art, which was opened in 2008, designed by the renowned architect I.M.P. MIA houses one of the most comprehensive collections of Islamic art in the world, with masterpieces from every corner of the globe representing the diversity found in Islamic heritage. The second museum is Mathaf, Arab Museum of Modern Art, which houses a unique world-class collection of modern and contemporary art from the Arab world, opened in 2010. The National Museum of Qatar, established in 1975, remodeled in 2019, tells the story of Qatar and its people from earliest time till today. The Desert Rose inspired the striking design of the National Museum of the French architect Jean Nouvel. Ongoing to the second phase, which focuses on the social development, involved the establishment of 3 new institutions. 321 Olympic and Sports Museum, inaugurated in 2022, just before the World Cup, which encourages a healthy, active lifestyle. And I also like to add that Qatar is the only country in the world that established Sports Day as a national holiday. The Do Children's Museum of Qatar, the first of its kind in the region, caters to children and their families, and this is still under development, scheduled to open in 2027. Qatar Auto Museums bring together Qatar's auto enthusiast community and inspires the next generation of innovators, designers, engineers, collectors, and policymakers through a shared passion for cars. The forthcoming third phase emphasizes on a global outreach, with 2 institutions in the pipeline. Lusail Museum houses the world's largest collection of Orientalist paintings that will interconnect stories from artistic traditions worldwide and will serve as a think tank on topics related to the East-West relations. While the Art Mill Museum, formerly a flour mill, is poised to become an internationally focused museum of modern and contemporary art, scheduled to open in 2030. Together with the National Museum and the Museum of the Islamic Art and the Art Mill Museum will form a cultural district designed by James Corner. The area around and between these museums will be walkable. It will consist of a park and a footbridge, and it will be arranged that visitors can spend the whole day there, engaging a variety of activities. This project represents a transformative initiative. Which its success validated only upon the completion of the 25 years strategy, but is also already evident that the establishment of these cultural districts has and will have a tremendous positive impact on Qatar's cultural society and economy. At the heart of these initiatives lies Qatar National Strategy to foster organic growth by transitioning to knowledge-based economy. These establishments of cultural districts provide our citizens and residents with spaces that promote social interaction, recreational pursuits, and learning and entertainment. By nurturing art, culture, and heritage, Qatar is diversifying its economy potential beyond the traditional oil and gas industry, which has fueled the economy's growth for decades. To conclude, our emerging cultural districts aspire to evolve into a vibrant hubs of the city life, empowering individuals to make a meaningful contribution to society while ensuring long-term economic sustainability. Importantly, they seek to foster social development and enhance the overall quality of life for all residents. Recognizing the central role of culture and heritage in our tradition, we view them as a fundamental to charting our path forward into the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Xiqu. I almost lost count of how many infrastructure venues you are going to build and you already have. And I want to remind our audience that Qatar is actually quite a country with small population. I just checked, it's about 2.7 million, right? So with a 2.7 million population, they are building a very, very ambitious cultural district project. So this is really showing that arts and culture really have a very great ability to showcase the soft power of a country. Our last speaker, Xiqu Miki, is going to introduce to us a very different model of arts and cultural development. Xiqu is currently the International Artistic Director of the Venice Art Site, Naoshima, Japan, and Director of Naoshima New Museum of Art. Prior to taking up her current positions, Xiqu was the Chief and Senior Curator of Palais de Tokyo, Paris from year 2000 to 2014, and Co-Director of Yokohama Triennale 2017, and Artistic Director of its 2011 edition. Xiqu has curated many international exhibitions and is involved in the curation of Bangkok Arts Biennale 2024. Xiqu will speak on the topic revitalization of the region through symbiosis of arts, architecture, nature, and community. As opposed to the cultural districts that are built on greenfield sites or wholly funded by government, just as what we see in the examples before, the Venice Art Site Naoshima is a privately funded project aiming to revitalize the islands in the Situa Inland Sea of Japan through arts and culture. The site is now a very, very popular tourism destination. It is an exemplar of how arts and culture can contribute to the social and economic transformation of an almost deserted location. May I now invite Xiqu to come to the stage and give us her presentation.
Thank you, Betty, and hello, everyone. Thank you very much for inviting me to speak here about Venice Art Site Naoshima, which has been developed in the island of Seto Inland Sea in Japan for almost 40 years. It is very much different from the urban setting like here in Hong Kong, but I hope this story of revitalization of the region through symbiosis of art, architecture, nature, and community will be useful to share with you all today. As you can see, Venice Art Site Naoshima activities conducted by Fukutake Foundation and the Venice Holdings on the 3 islands of Naoshima, Inujima, and Teshima. It started from the island of Naoshima by the initiative of our president, Soichiro Fukutake. So this is our missions. Our activities is that by integrating art and architecture in the natural context and community's life, we foster a unique environment which cannot be found in any other place in the world, and invite people to ask about what does well-being truly means. So I would like to introduce a little bit of our background. Here are some old photos of the island. Although Seto Inland Sea was designated a very first national park in Japan, I think early 1934, the environmental problem became serious due to excessive modernization and industrialization. There is a copper refinery on Naoshima which opened in 1917. As you can see, all the trees were dead due to sulfur dioxide coming from the copper refineries. Inujima was the same. It was also home to a copper refinery, which operated for only 10 years at the beginning of the 20th century. The refinery was shut down after the collapse of the copper market and had been left abandoned for 19 years. This is the photo of Teshima. Teshima was the victim of large-scale industrial waste dumping. Over 900,000 tons of waste were dumped illegally from 1975 to 1990. After a long battle from local residents, waste removal started in 2000 and was completed in 2017. So, at the beginning, the idea started with the wishes of our president father, Tetsuhiko Fukutake, and the Naoshima mayor, Miyake, to create a campsite for children. However, Tetsuhiko passed away suddenly, and Soichiro took over the project. At the origin of the belief in the power of art put into shape by Soichiro Fukutake lies the encounter with the works of Yasuo Kuniyoshi, which Fukutake's father used to hold in his art collection. Kuniyoshi was born in late 19th century in neighboring Okayama, the Fukutake family's hometown, and immigrated to the US as a laborer when he was young, and later became known artist in the United States during the first half of the 20th century. He was also a social reformer. So his paintings made Fukutake understand that art is a catalyst for thought. Fukutake excluded architect from Tokyo from the beginning, as Tokyo is in his eyes the antithesis to the island, which suffered dramatically from the negative consequences of the rapid modernization and industrialization of Japan. As a result, the architect he chose to work with was Osaka-based Tadao Ando. So, as I said, Tetsuhiko's dream was to create a camping site for children. In 1989, International Camping Ground for Children was created. But the real starting of the art activity started by the opening of Benesse House Museum in 1992. The innovative idea at that time was to combine museum and hotel together. It was actually a very first museum building designed by Ando in the world at that time. The museum is constructed in harmony with the natural surroundings. Then, little by little, the works were located in outside natural setting, exploring possibilities for site-specific works. Even on the cliff. The ultimate of this approach is the Xiqu Art Museum, which combines works by Claude Monet and Walter de Maria and James Turrell, permanently exhibited. The museum structure is mostly buried in the ground, but its interior is entirely lit by natural light. The space has only natural light, so the museum closes when the sun sets. It's always different to see the works, depends on the lighting, never the same on your visit. In Inujima, the copper refinery abandoned for 19 years was converted into museum by the architect Hiroshi Sambuichi, the Hiroshima-based architect, and also Yukinori Yanagi. And this building does not use any electricity, and the temperature inside is entirely regulated by natural airflow, solar radiation, and geothermal conduction. The idea of merging architecture with the surrounding environment can also be found in following projects, such as Liufan Museum. Another example is Teshima Art Museum, opened in 2010. This is an aerial view of the Teshima Museum, which has a form of water drop. The project's important element is to renew and protect the surrounding terrace rice field. Once rice and vegetable production was very active in the island, but during the time of Japan's rapid growth, agricultural activity was declined. So by this project, surrounding rice fields were renewed together with local people. Now the rice fields produce rice as well as create beautiful landscapes. I am showing some of the recent projects. This is a ballet gallery opened during the pandemic period with the smallest building designed by Tado Ando. The idea of this gallery is not closed building. It is half inside, half outside, and that surrounding natural area is a principal space of the gallery. This is another project which also opened in recent years. Hiroshi Sugimoto's The Glass Tea House, Mondrian, had been traveled in Venice, Versailles, and Kyoto, and finally found his home in Naoshima. So we have decided to reorganize a part of the Benessa house into a special gallery space to Hiroshi Sugimoto's various works, not only the photographies as well as architecture and sculpture project. So this is a map of Naoshima. Up to now, I have been showing project of southern part of island, which is a private property. You see on the map blue. But with the art house project initiated in 1998, we started to also focus on the local community and its way of life, on preserving and subliming not only the natural landscape, but also the cultural and historical dimension of the place. Since this first project, Kadoya by Miyajima, we have collaborated with the local community. For this work, this is the inside of the house. 125 local residents set the digital counters that flash on and off. This is another work by Rei Naito. Here, the focus is not on making by breaking on a scrap and build approach, but rather to make the best use of the wisdom and experience accumulated by past generation and local inhabitant. The restoration of old facilities also contribute to strengthen the ties of the community as well as to preserve old customs. Go Shrine is a Shinto shrine dating back to the Edo period, which Hiroshi Sugimoto restored. But allowing a contemporary artist to reinterpret and design architecture of such an ancient place of faith is hardly heard of in Japan. It does demonstrate the proximity of local people with art and hints at how profound their understanding of the medium is. This is the picture of art house project in Inujima, which has been started in 2010. And in 2001, in Naoshima, the standard exhibition was held. This exhibition displayed works not only within the Benesse House buildings, but also across the whole island. And this exhibition is the one who led to the Setouchi Triennale later on in collaboration with the prefectural government. So with this exhibition, there were more collaborations with local artists and people. One example is Noren project, which creates a house entrance curtain for each house in the village by a local dyeing and weaving artist. And another example is preserving all the nicknames of houses. This was also studied at that occasion. And this one is the second standard exhibition. The exhibition also led to the start of the Naoshima rice growing, an initiative allowing people to learn about the local culture by experiencing the rice growing process from old times. And another project is Bus House by Shinro Take. You can actually take a bus inside and enjoy the artworks. This is inside. And this Naoshima Bus, I Love You, is operated by members of the Naoshima Tourism Association. The public bus illustrates a new phase of the partnership with local residents. It is well loved by both visitors and the local people because this is a place to meet. So another example is also, this is the former pachinko parlor. And this was also converted into the gallery, and by artist Shitamichi, young artist. The gallery is conceived as a place to research, collect, exhibit, and discuss the landscape, climate, folk customs, and the history of the Seto Inland Sea region, together with the people who live there and those who are involved with them, as well as experts in various fields. I would like to just introduce quickly the external reviews, how it has been transformed. In the latest Forbes web edition, Naoshima was selected as number 6 on the list of 23 best places to travel in 2023. Naoshima is the only Japanese destination selected. And in 2023, Lonely Planet, the world's most read travel guide, has ranked Naoshima as the third best place to visit in Japan after Tokyo and Kyoto. So the number of the population, the number of annual visitors in Naoshima has increased from a few thousand to about 700,000 over the last 20 years. Just some figures of the Triennale, which has been started in 2010, and its 6th edition is taking place next year. Okay, some initiative of children project with the increase of foreign tourists by Town's Board of Education. Okay, this is the population and the immigrant in Naoshima. As the islanders gradually decrease by aging, on contrary, the new people came, resulting to prevent a decline of population. Many inns and restaurants have been established by islanders and young people from outside the island, which has revitalized the island. A new art museum project by Tadao Ando is underway on Naoshima. Is going to open in the spring of 2025. It is going to be the 10th project of Tadao Ando in Naoshima. And this museum mainly exhibits the works of artists from the Asian region, including Japan. So I see the sign of time's up, so I have to conclude. To wrap up, I would like to share the 3 key learnings of Mr. Fukutake from his almost 40 years of experience in Naoshima. First, nature is the best teacher. It is important not only to read books, but also to think in nature. And second, the trend in our economy-driven society is to destroy what exists to create new things. Since many years, he is convinced that it is important in future to focus on the more sustainable concept of use what exists to create what is to be, instead of a cycle of creating and destroying. Finally, business is a means for the purpose and not the purpose itself. The real purpose should always be culture. So the economy must serve to culture. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ms. Miki. Would you please take your seats as our member of staff would like to take a brief moment to set up the stage for the upcoming Q&A session. And thank you very much once again to our speakers for the enlightening sharing. So as we slowly transition to the Q&A session, we do encourage both in-person and virtual audience members to engage with our distinguished speakers. So should you have any inquiries or questions, please scan the QR code that is now being displayed on the screen to submit your questions. And if you're watching live online, you'll find a Q&A box on the screen. Very easy, simply type and send in all the questions that you'd like to ask our speakers today. So given our very limited time and the likelihood of many insightful questions, we urge you to make the most out of this opportunity. Our moderator would then select and post a number of these questions to our panel members. So don't forget to scan the QR code on the screen. If you're watching live stream, you will be able to see a Q&A box on the screen. Simply type in your questions and send in your questions. We'll see them accordingly. All right, ladies and gentlemen, once again, a round of applause to welcome Mr. Reeve, Director Al-Nasser, Ms. Sedgwick, Ms. Miki, and Mrs. Fong back onto the stage for the Q&A session.
First of all, very, very sincere gratitude to our four speakers who made excellent presentation at the plenary session. So I know that our time is very limited. My clock is, I only have 25 minutes, but I myself have a lot of questions I want to ask our four speakers. Well, sitting here are the heads or the CEO of 5 cultural districts, including myself. We are all passionate about our project. I can hear from your presentation, you are very passionate about the projects, and you really think that it could really help contribute to the social and economic transformation of the city. But there are also criticisms, right? Saying that arts and cultural facilities are very difficult to maintain and sustain environmentally and financially. And some critics sometimes describes cultural districts as white elephants that suck up a lot of public resources. And actually, during COVID and post-COVID, we are seeing governments reducing their investment and also support for arts and cultural facilities. But on the other hand, our arts and cultural facilities are expected to do more. Well, if you look at the ICOM definition, I think enacted a few years ago, saying that apart from showing exhibitions or doing programs, we are expected to be more inclusive, more diversified, and sustainable, accessible. So on one hand, we have a lot of public demands on cultural districts and facilities. And on the other hand, our funding is facing a rather difficult situation here in Hong Kong as well. So my first question is, can you share with us some of the ways that you could generate more revenue for your cultural districts? And as Akiko has mentioned, it's basically is privately funded. But for other cultural districts, apart from government funding, I think Katrina has also talked about you have one area, the 5th Square, which is totally privately supported by private fundings like the RDE income. So may I put the question to Katrina and Tim first? Talk about the funding, where's the source of funding?
Yes, so to begin, I suppose Federation Square is an interesting model because it has a series of foundation tenants, and in a way it's kind of government paying government. There's state-funded institutions there paying rent, which then go towards the maintenance of the square, but there's also a range of other cultural tenants, and those and also commercial tenants, food and beverage largely, and then a whole lot of hirers, venue hirers across the space, and that helps generate income which we can then use to maintain the asset. And you know, it's always, that's the big challenge aside from running our operations, is that the maintenance of aging assets, but that seems to work quite well. I don't think that model though is applicable to the cultural institutions who sit within our precinct. So certainly the Australian Centre for the Museum, ACME, NGV, Arts Centre Melbourne, they all require subsidy to be maintained. And I would say that the value of that investment for government is about creating a city that is livable, it's culturally rich, and therefore it attracts a whole lot of business, it attracts a whole lot of visitors. It's about the kind of the lifestyle, the safety, the ability for its citizens to come together and share ideas, to explore stories together. All of those things are vital to a vibrant economy. So the benefits are writ large, and I think governments more and more are understanding that, and I think we see that here.
Yes. Tim, do you have anything to share?
Well, I mean, I just echo some of those points. I don't think that public funding can simply withdraw as soon as a cultural district has been built. It requires ongoing investment from the public purse, but combined with, you know, more an entrepreneurial spirit across the park. I mean, we're still very early on in our development at East Bank, so we don't really know how it's going to shake down. But we've got a really great blend of existing Olympic venues, new cultural and education venues, a park which is just really beginning to mature. So we don't really know what that ecosystem is going to look like yet, but we're at that point that you're probably 2 or 3 years ahead here at West Kowloon, where we're looking ahead knowing that there are going to be gaps if we don't think about how we can bring in new income. But it's a similar model. We're all tenants of the legacy corporation. Then we have major residential developments still to be built out in the park, which will generate receipts, successful sporting venues and so on. But the bit we've got to get to, and it will happen organically over the next 3, 4, 5 years, is to see what a finished park looks like. Right. We see the bits and pieces of it gradually open, but we don't really know how it all fits together and how it will work as an ecosystem, as a destination, as something which is both a local park and an international cultural destination. Yes. But there will be opportunities for us in there to generate the income we need to make it.
I really appreciate your optimism, right? Because in West Kowloon, we are operating like we have an endowment, 21.6 billion Hong Kong, 2.7 billion US, and now we are at the stage of spending most of them. So we have to work very hard on finding income because we work on a self-financing basis. So we have reached that stage that we are really scratching our head how to come up with more funding resources.
Yeah, we could do with that £2 billion endowment at East Bank. Maybe that's where we'll start.
Xiqu, you have anything to share with us? I'm sure the Qatar government is strongly behind the cultural districts, right?
Yes, most of our cultural districts are government funded, but they also have commercial sides of them that to generate revenues. All the cultural districts, which are the 2 established ones, Qatar, and they have restaurants and venues or for rental to generate revenues, but they are mainly government funded.
Yeah, that's great. Very, very good. So I want to turn to the 2 aspects, the social and economic impact. So on social impact, I think Xiqu has mentioned quite a lot about how you integrate arts and culture development into the life of the people on the Naoshima Islands. Yeah, so for us, for the others, right, we are building like greenfield sites. We develop the cultural district from fresh, nothing there before. So how do we relate cultural districts or culture into the local people's everyday life. So how do we help them, convince them this is something good for them, even though they are not passionate or interested in arts and culture? So how do cultural precincts transform their life? Should we start with Tim again, and then we go forward?
Well, I mean, by kind of talking to the people who live locally and making sure that they can see what stake they have in it. I mean, one of the really important aspects for us with the Olympic Park is that when the Olympics was built, when it was created, there is a kind of sense that people who live locally are almost pushed out in order to allow the Olympic Games to be built. And so there's a degree of understandable kind of skepticism about what East Bank and what the legacy of the park means. So gradually, local people are starting to take back ownership of the park because the partners are spending a lot of time with local communities, encouraging them to participate, and I think kind of showing them how much kind of opportunity will be created by these big national institutions arriving in the park. And that's about kind of jobs, about creative opportunity in what is the largest growing sector in the UK, creative industries sector. But genuine kind of participation. One of the things, for example, we're doing for V&A East is the director of V&A East, Gus Casey-Hayford, is going out to every single school in the 4 boroughs between the start of the V&A East project and V&A East opening next year, with objects from the V&A's collection, going out into schools, going out into colleges, and starting to open up what the V&A collection is and what it can do and how it relates to contemporary society. So these are the sorts of projects and initiatives that get local people to feel a sense of ownership again of a piece of London where they feel they have been pushed out to create the Olympics. So that's just one example of the kind of work we try and do across the piece to get that engagement.
It's very important for cultural districts to connect with the people. Katrina, can you share with us what you're doing? You talk a little bit about what you're doing in the presentation.
Yeah, I mean, I think what's interesting for Melbourne is Melbourne already has a pride in itself being the cultural capital, and there's already a lot of local engagement. Having said that, I think what's interesting about where the arts precinct's located in the city is its proximity to some other precincts. So we're very adjacent to the sports and entertainment precinct. We're adjacent to the retail precinct. Not far off is the knowledge and ideas precinct. And how those things all knit together, I think, is really important. I think the other thing is around, so that you're not seeing yourself in isolation. You're woven into the fabric of the city as a whole, and I think that's a fundamental principle. The other one is about invitation, and I think what's really exciting about creating precincts is you've got the spaces around the institutions, you've got a whole lot of audiences who feel welcome and invited and included into those institutions. You have others who don't feel part of those institutions, and that's the constant challenge. How do you get people over the threshold to come in to experience the art and the music and the stories that are so wonderful and transformative in their lives? And those spaces between, I think, are really crucial for that, and we see that here in the West Kowloon precinct, and on the work that you're doing in Aoshima and likewise in East is encouraging people to come in and feel ownership of those spaces, that they come in and they dwell and they spend time and they feel safe, and then they discover that they could go inside the building and they discover a work of art that is suddenly transformative, or they see an artist talking, or their children participate in a workshop, and suddenly the entire relationship changes, and you're doing it with your broad community, and that's the kind of gluing together, I suppose, of the social fabric of a city through an arts precinct that I think has got so much potential.
Thank you. Sheka, you have anything?
I think we follow the same strategy on Qatar museums, where we create spaces mainly with keeping for the community. And for example, focusing on the Museum of Islamic Art, what we do is the museum is beyond the museum. It's a civic institution where we have on the ground floor a cafe that looks over a view, the most beautiful view of Doha, the West Bay. On the 5th floor, we have Alain Ducasse restaurant with mixed cuisine, French and local. Also, we have the auditorium where we run many film screenings. Last week, we've done one called Ode to Our Land for 3 days, and it was immediately booked on the morning, so we had to accommodate for the visitors to add screening for 2 more weeks. We also have the library, and also we have the most beautiful park in Doha connected to the museum, and we do lots of activities like food festival, outdoor screening, yoga at the park, community days. Also 2 weeks ago we've done Gate to India, and more than 17,000 visitors came in 2 days. Also we have a cafe at the park with a beautiful view. So what we do is we run these activities that will interest and engage different target audiences and age groups that are not necessarily interested into Islamic art or a museum, but through this program we entice them to take a further step and explore our collection and museum with an aim for them to become loyal visitors.
Thank you. Xiqu, you have anything to add?
Yes, I have shown a lot of examples that we have collaborated with local people, but I have to tell you that it didn't happen like this. It took the years and years of working. And for example, the very first Miyajima's project that 125 local residents are invited to set the time setting. But no one really came, well, except very few people at the very beginning. So we had to, go door to door and friends to friends. And so then, like this, it's little by little, we have gained the trust, with the local people. And so the thing is, it takes quite a time. It doesn't make things happen instantly. So I think it's important to know about this, having this long-term vision is quite important for this kind of cultural development project. And then also the reason I have shown these examples for today's session is that the purpose of what we are doing is actually we are not making a town. It's actually their land. It's their community. And the area was suffered. So what we are doing is actually to make local people to regain a pride of their community, of their land. So then also it's not depending us, but it's more about local people who make their community better by themselves. It's their land, it's their community. So this is why, for us, it's important also to collaborate with the local people, to share the ideas, and they can make themselves also. They can make change. So this is why, I think it's important to do this kind of project with the local people. So which is very much different from the big cities, but I think there are some, similarities which can, you can also share.
Yeah. I think all the speakers have alluded to the point that apart from building infrastructure, it's equally important to lay out programs that would be engaging the local residents, as well as aspiring ourselves to be the international cultural hub, targeting tourists and visitors. So it's a balance between the two. So I have a list of questions from the floor or from our participants here. One of the questions is, what are the KPIs for Becker cultural developments like ours? So I think it relates to the second leg of our topic is the economic contribution of cultural districts. So I really like what Akiko said just now, right? The quote, economy is the servant of culture to culture. So I hope everybody will subscribe to this quotation that economy is working for culture, not the other way around. But as a CEO, heads of the cultural district, we do have to be accountable to the governments, to the people, why we are spending that amount of money on building our infrastructure and running our programs. So what are the major contributions, economic contributions we have, your cultural district have to your city, to the country? So that is a question, very broad question, but welcome your sharing of thoughts. Should we start from that side? And Xiqu, you start first. As I mentioned earlier, you have 2.7 million people, but you are investing a lot in arts and culture. So is there any economic considerations behind?
We are also investing into creative economy, which is a big part of the ecosystem that we are developing, where we want to also provide other income besides oil and gas. So we have M7 as a creative hub. Also we have Liwan and the fire station. All of these are creative hubs to foster local talents, designers, and provide space for them with an aim to contribute to the creative economy. As I've been reading, also the UN, they've mentioned the creative economy contribute to around more than $2 billion and provide work for more than 30 million around the world, and also creative economy contribute around 10% of the economy of the country. So this is one side of the contribution. Also there is the tourism part, which is essential, and we are also investing a lot on it to link the museums with Hamad International Airport being in a very crucial central part of the world. We have many tourists and also transit tourists. I see them coming in with their luggage, visiting the museum, and then continuing their flights.
Katrina?
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously on a capital project, the big thing is on time, on budget, and jobs. But setting that aside, I mean, more broadly, we have targets that we've got to achieve around tourism and total number of visitors, online engagement, all of those sorts of things. But those kind of softer targets are about dwell time. How long do people actually spend? Are they just popping in, or are they actually spending time to explore and talk and be together across the community? That's a really important thing. I think also there's increasingly a target around making sure that we're not just preaching to the converted. We talk about the inner sort of leafy green suburbs, which tend to be wealthier. They tend to be less culturally diverse, and they are already deeply engaged with the cultural institutions. How do we make sure that we are reflecting, in terms of our visitation, our incredibly diverse, multiculturally and socioeconomically diverse communities? How are we reaching out in this very large city that's rapidly growing out to not just inner city, but out to the broader suburbs and beyond, across regional Victoria and so on. So getting that kind of visitation and engagement is a really kind of core KPI. Education is, again, a really important part of what we do, making sure that we are engaging with young people, particularly as we pivot to a knowledge economy. Creativity and culture are absolutely crucial for that. And then I think the contribution to Brand Melbourne, Brand Victoria, and again, excitingly, our government has understood that creativity and culture is absolutely part of Brand Melbourne. We're seeing that in all of the campaigns now. How are we supporting that? And certainly for Creative Victoria, our state government body, they are working with portfolios right across government to leverage that part of our brand to attract business into our state. So it's multidimensional in terms of those benefits and those KPIs.
Yeah, I mean, I'd echo that for London in terms of reinvesting to keep London as a major international cultural destination is super important. But I think the KPI that I think will define success or failure for East Bank is around repeat visitation from local audiences. In other words, yes, we need international visitors to come and spend a day at East Bank, but the thing that will sustain it and keep it going year after year is a sense of connection and ownership by local people who don't just come because they want to see an exhibition and are prepared to pay for it, but they come to the Olympic Park because it is their local park and it's where they go to hang out as much as going to a sporting event or going to an exhibition. That will sustain us through the peaks and troughs of, the economic vicissitudes that we're all familiar with from the last 5 years. Is a kind of sense that this is an East London park owned and used by East London people.
Right. You both, Katrina and Tim, you talk about the branding. Of course, you have very strong brands within your East Bank project and the MAP. The V&A, of course, is a brand itself, worldwide known brand, and also BBC, the Sadler's Wells. So how could East Bank stand out as a brand? And how could MAP stand out, like how does West Kowloon Cultural District stand out as a brand?
Yeah, I mean, that's a really interesting question for us at the moment, and it's not one we have to focus on in a mad rush, but at the moment we've got these layers, which are, if we don't get it right, could be quite confusing, particularly as we establish ourselves as a leisure and cultural destination, because you've got all of the individual brands, as you say, very strong brands, London College of Fashion, UCL, V&A, and so on. Then you've got the Olympic Park, which everyone knows, certainly in London, everyone knows what the Olympic Park is and where it is. And then you've got East Bank as the sort of umbrella organisation. And at the moment, my kind of own personal feeling is that there's one layer too many. We've got 3 layers, and really we need kind of 2 layers. But I'm not sure which of the layers we kind of take out yet, because I think the destination is the Olympic Park. The partners bring their own brands, and we need to kind of find a way then of finding space for the idea that East Bank represents. And that's the crucial thing. It's not so much an external brand, a destination brand. It's an idea around cultural collaboration and how we weave that into a sense of place, and then the individual brands that the partners bring is the key for us. But we've not cracked that yet. That's a challenge yet to come.
Challenge to offer. Katrina, because you already have pre-existing facilities, right? You are now building new, but you put everything under the MAP. So how do you build this brand?
Well, again, I think it's very similar. I mean, I think the Arts Precinct, Melbourne Arts Precinct, should feel like a suburb, like a cool place to go to, but the individual brands will still be dominating as the specific kind of destination. I'm buying a ticket to go here, but I'm in the Arts Precinct, what else is on? So it's, I see that it's something that amplifies rather than dominates, and certainly Melbourne Arts Precinct Corporation should be invisible it's, as a kind of title. Our particular organisational brand is nowhere. It's simply about, it's a place to go and a way to kind of navigate the city in the same way that you go to South Bank or you go to Brunswick. It's a suburb more than a specific highlighted logo.
Xiqu, you have Qatar Museums as a group of museums, many different types of museums, right?
Yes, but I think it's similar also. Qatar Museums more subtle brand, and the museums are more the prominent brand, and each museum has its own brand that relates to its collection.
Yeah, I think Xiqu, your brand is very strong. Span as art site, so it's already one brand, including many venues on the islands, right? So you are the example, good example for us.
Yeah. Well, branding strategies, it's a little bit difficult to talk about this. And then also I feel a little bit uncomfortable being here because compared to all these cultural districts in the cities, we are in the remote island and the isolated areas. However, I think the branding, if you can say that our branding is probably, we are creating a kind of pilgrimage kind of areas that, culture can also exist in the remote island and not just a city. So, well, I think that's probably, one reason I am here. And I would like to thank you for inviting me to speak in this context.
Yes, I think I'm running out of time, but I really want to ask this question, which is also questions asked by our participants. It's not too fair for you to answer because you've been here for only one day or half day, but the question is, since Hong Kong is a cultural exchange where East meets West, could the panelists from different cultural districts collaborate with Hong Kong to establish permanent structures of relationship with us? The West Kowloon Cultural District is a cultural district to cultural district collaboration. Right? Yesterday we signed many MOUs. It's venues to venue, museum to museum. So would we be able to collaborate at a cultural district level? What do you think?
Well, we should, and I think there are already forums in place that have cultural districts talking to each other, the World Cultural Districts Forum and so on, and GCDN. So I think that's really important. I mean, I find this really interesting coming from the V&A, where we're part of the original 170-year-old cultural district at Exhibition Road, but we're also involved in creating a new one. So we're experienced, but also we know nothing. And that's the really, East Bank for us, learning and watching West Kowloon over the last 10 years has been so important.
I look forward to further discussion. Yeah, Katrina, the MEP, and West Kowloon.
Yeah, well, I mean, I love this project, the West Kowloon project. It's so inspiring. And I think we do all have to work together. I think kind of wayfinding, there's physical wayfinding, there's also digital wayfinding, and there's huge potential in that. Yes. What does that mean for visitors? Yes. How can you explore and, thinking about, okay, I'm coming to Hong Kong, what am I going to see? How can I navigate that? Both planning 3 months before and then in real time. How can I do that kind of journey? I think that's something we've all got to crack. I don't think anybody's kind of got that right yet. I think there's also, we have to take climate change seriously. How do we come up with systems that are more sustainable, more, to affect our operations in clever ways when we have these clusters of activity? And South Bank, for example, is doing some really interesting things in London. They have 18 different restaurants in that site. They have 1 delivery of milk a day. Now that might seem like a little thing, but in terms of truck movements and thinking about efficiencies and using kind of clusters of diverse activity in a clever way, that makes a difference. And so I think those sorts of lessons we need to think about and learn from.
Very good. Xiqu, we have already signed MOU, right, yesterday, so we look forward to further collaboration with the Qatar museums. And certainly for Xiqu, we will visit your site and then find out if there are any opportunities that our museums can collaborate with, especially your new museum, now Shimmer Museum of Art. So I think we have to wrap up here. So thank you so much for your participation in this plenary session. I hope we all have some takeaway from this discussion. And as I said earlier, we look forward to further discussion and collaboration and visits to East Bank and MAP and Qatar museums, and now Shimmer. Thank you so much for your patience.
Absolutely brilliant discussion. Thank you very much, Charles, moderator and speakers. For the time being, would you please step forward on the stage, and we'd like to take a group photo. Thank you very much. Wonderful testament to the spirit of collaboration and innovation that we've been celebrating here today. All right, lovely. Once again, thank you very much. Please be seated. Mr. Reeve, Director Al-Nasser, Ms. Sedgwick, Ms. Mickey, and Mr. Sfung. On behalf of the West Kowloon Cultural District Authority, I'd like to thank all the guests and speakers for making this event an incredible success. Your active involvement and enthusiasm have also enriched the discussions and exchanges throughout the session. Ladies and gentlemen, this officially concludes the opening of the Hong Kong International Cultural Summit 2024. May I please ask everyone to remain seated and allow our speakers and MOU signatories and guests in the first 3 rows to leave the theatre first. you.